The morning of my 35th birthday started with hope. I touched my belly, smiling at the secret growing inside me. Mark and I had been trying for months, and finally, I would tell him at dinner. My husband, the brilliant trauma surgeon, would be thrilled. I never got the chance. The crash happened so fast. Metal screeched against metal. Our car spun, then flipped. Through shattered glass and twisted steel, I saw her car too. His first love, Rachel, pregnant and trapped just like me. The same Rachel he swore meant nothing anymore. I watched my husband make a choice that destroyed our marriage. He ran to her, leaving me bleeding and begging. The media called him a hero for saving a pregnant woman and her unborn child. Nobody knew I was carrying his baby too. Nobody knew I lost it alone in that wreckage while he held her hand. Mark still wears his wedding ring, but his eyes follow her every time she visits the hospital. He brings her tea, checks her vitals, makes sure her baby is healthy. Meanwhile, I sit in our empty nursery, divorce papers in hand, wondering if he ever truly loved me at all. This is my story of betrayal, survival, and the price of loving someone who never really let go of their past. Before we start this video, buckle up, get ready, and subscribe for a special surprise tomorrow. I woke up to sunlight streaming through our bedroom windows, my hand instinctively moving to my still flat stomach. 35 years old today, and finally, wonderfully pregnant. The test had confirmed it 3 days ago, but I'd kept the secret, wanting to tell Mark at the perfect moment. Tonight at dinner, I decided, watching dust motes dance in the morning light. Mark had already left for his early surgery rotation at Memorial Hospital. My brilliant trauma surgeon husband, always saving lives while I slept. The thought made me smile as I stretched and checked my phone. A message from him waited. Happy birthday, beautiful. Dinner reservations at 7. Wear that red dress I love. I took my time getting ready for work, savoring the quiet morning routine. Teaching high school English wasn't as dramatic as emergency surgery, but I loved it. My students had decorated my desk with balloons and cards, making me tear up. Damn. Pregnancy hormones. I hadn't told anyone at work yet either, wanting Mark to be the first to know. During my lunch break, I found myself scrolling through old photos on my phone. Mark and I at our wedding 3 years ago, both of us grinning like idiots. Us hiking in Colorado last summer, his arm around my waist as we posed on a mountain peak. Random selfies from lazy Sunday mornings, his dark hair messy from sleep. We'd had our rough patches like any couple, but I'd never doubted we were meant for each other. The memory of our last fight tried to surface, but I pushed it away. It had been stupid, really. I'd found him looking at Rachel's social media again. Rachel Chen, his college girlfriend, the one who'd gotten away, or so everyone had said at our wedding, not realizing I could hear them whisper. He'd sworn it meant nothing, that he was just checking on an old friend. I'd believed him because I wanted to, because the alternative hurt too much to consider. The afternoon dragged as I watched the clock, eager to get home and change for dinner. My red dress hung ready in the closet, the one that made me feel sexy and confident. Mark had bought it for our 2nd anniversary, and his eyes still lit up every time I wore it. Tonight would be perfect. I'd wait until dessert to tell him about the baby, watch his face as he realized he was going to be a father. Traffic was heavy as I drove home, but nothing could dampen my mood. I hummed along to the radio, one hand resting on my stomach. Already I felt different, more aware of my body, though I knew it was too early for real change. The future stretched, ahead bright and full of possibility. Mark called just as I finished my makeup. Running a bit late, love. Emergency appendectomy came in. Meet me at the restaurant? His voice was rushed but warm. I agreed, grabbing my purse and keys. The restaurant was only 15 minutes away, and I'd rather wait there than at home. The spring evening was perfect for driving, windows down and warm air rushing past. I took the back roads to avoid highway traffic, winding through residential streets I knew by heart. Mark and I had looked at houses here when we first married, before deciding on our place closer to the hospital. The crash came out of nowhere. A truck ran a red light, plowing into a minivan that spun into my lane. I jerked the wheel, but there was nowhere to go. Impact threw me forward against the seatbelt as metal screamed against metal. My car flipped once, twice before slamming to a stop against a guardrail. Pain exploded through my body. Blood trickled down my face from where my head had hit the window. The airbag had deployed, leaving my chest burning. My legs were pinned through the spider-webbed windshield. I could see other cars involved in the pileup, could hear screams and sirens in the distance. Then I saw her car, a silver BMW, crushed against a telephone pole. Through the wreckage, I recognized Rachel Chen's face, bloody and unconscious. My heart stopped as I realized Mark would be among the first responders. He would see us both trapped here, both needing help. The sirens grew closer. I tried to move, but pain shot through my body. Something warm and wet was spreading between my legs. No, please no. Not the baby. Not today. I fumbled for my phone, but it had been thrown somewhere in the crash. Emergency vehicles flooded the scene. I heard familiar voices shouting orders. Knew the trauma team from Memorial had arrived. Then Mark's voice, clear and commanding. We've got multiple casualties. Too critical. Chen, with me. I tried to call out, but could barely whisper. Through my broken window, I saw Mark running toward the silver BMW. He paused for a split second, looking between the two cars. His eyes met mine, wide with recognition and horror. I reached for him, certain he would come to me first. He turned away. I watched my husband run to save his first love, leaving me bleeding and alone on what should have been the happiest day of our lives. The edges of my vision grew dark as shock set in. The last thing I saw was Mark cutting Rachel free from her car, cradling her body as he carried her to safety. The pain in my abdomen grew unbearable. I knew what was happening but couldn't stop it. Trapped in the wreckage of my car and my marriage, I lost our baby, while my husband saved someone else's. The world faded to black as other rescuers finally reached me, but it was too late. Everything that mattered was already gone. Sirens wailed as my consciousness flickered. Through waves of pain, I heard Mark barking orders, his voice growing fainter as he moved away from my car. My vision blurred, but I could still make out his figure hunched over Rachel's unconscious form. His hands moved with practiced precision as he assessed her injuries, the same hands that had caressed my stomach this morning when he thought I was still sleeping. Dr. Chen, we need a decision. The pregnant woman in the BMW is critical. She needs immediate transport. Another doctor's voice cut through the chaos. My heart seized. Rachel was pregnant too. The universe had a cruel sense of irony. Get her stabilized and in the ambulance. I'll ride with her. Mark's voice carried clearly, professional and controlled. No mention of his wife bleeding in another car. No hesitation in his choice. The pain between my legs intensified. I knew what it meant, but couldn't bear to acknowledge it. Warm blood soaked through my red dress. The one Mark loved. The one I'd worn to tell him about our baby. A baby that was slipping away while he saved someone else's. Different hands reached for me now. Unfamiliar voices asking questions I couldn't answer. The extraction team worked methodically to cut me free from the wreckage. I wanted to tell them to hurry, that I was losing something precious, but my voice wouldn't work. My body felt disconnected, floating above the scene like a spectator. They pulled me out on a backboard, efficient but gentle. As they lifted me, I caught one last glimpse of Mark climbing into the ambulance with Rachel. He never looked back. The doors slammed shut and the ambulance screamed away, carrying my husband and his pregnant ex-girlfriend while I bled out our future onto the asphalt. The ride to the hospital passed in fragments. Paramedics hovering over me, monitors beeping, radio chatter about multiple casualties. They asked about family contacts. I laughed, the sound breaking into sobs. My emergency contact was already at the hospital, saving someone else. Emergency room lights blazed overhead as they wheeled me in. Different doctors, different nurses, all wearing expressions of professional concern. They cut away my ruined dress, attached monitors, started IVs. Someone mentioned internal bleeding. Someone else said the word miscarriage. I closed my eyes, refusing to hear more. Hours passed in a haze of pain medication and procedures. They moved me to a private room eventually. Through the fog, I heard nurses whispering about the hero doctor who saved a pregnant woman from the same accident. How romantic, they said. How incredible that he kept his cool when he recognized her. No one mentioned his wife. Morning came, harsh sunlight streaming through hospital blinds. My 35th birthday had ended in an empty room, my body hollow in more ways than one. The door opened and Mark finally appeared, still wearing his surgical scrubs, exhaustion etched on his face. Sarah, I'm so sorry. I had to make a choice. His voice cracked. He reached for my hand, but I pulled away, the movement sending fresh pain through my battered body. How is she? The words tasted like ash in my mouth. Stable. If I hadn't gotten to her when I did. He stopped, running his hands through his hair. I'm a doctor, Sarah. I had to think about who needed me most urgently. I was pregnant. The words fell between us like stones. His face went white. What? I was going to tell you at dinner. Happy birthday to me. Bitterness coated every syllable. He stumbled backward, groping for the wall. Why didn't you tell me? At the accident, why didn't you? When should I have done that? While you were running away from my car? While you were climbing into the ambulance with her? My voice rose until I was nearly shouting. Nurses appeared in the doorway, drawn by the commotion. Mark straightened, his doctor mask sliding back into place. You need to rest. We'll talk about this later. No, we will not. Get out. The monitors betrayed steadied my racing heart, but I didn't care. He hesitated, then left without another word. Through my window, I watched him walk across the parking lot to the other wing of the hospital, to Rachel's room, no doubt, to check on her baby while the remains of ours were disposed of in medical waste bags. The next few days passed in a blur of medical procedures and pitying looks. News of the accident made local headlines. Heroic doctor saves pregnant woman in multi-car pileup. The articles mentioned his quick thinking, his steady hands, his personal connection to the patient making the save even more remarkable. A few noted that his wife had been injured in the same crash, a minor detail tacked on at the end. Mark divided his time between his patients, Rachel's recovery, and brief visits to my room. Each time he came, he tried to explain, to justify. Each time, I turned away until he left. The flowers he sent sat untouched on my windowsill, dying. Slowly, like everything else between us. My doctor, a kind woman named Helen, confirmed what I already knew. The trauma and blood loss had been too severe. Future pregnancies might be possible, she said, but there were no guarantees. I nodded, not telling her it didn't matter. There would be no more pregnancies with Mark. Rachel sent a message through a nurse, thanking me for sharing my husband when she needed him most. The nurse delivered it with a smile, clearly thinking it was sweet. I crumpled the note and threw it away, then demanded a different nurse for the rest of my stay. A week after the accident, they discharged me with prescriptions and follow-up appointments. Mark offered to take me home, but I called a cab instead. He watched from the hospital entrance as I left, still wearing his white coat, still playing the hero to everyone except his wife. At home, evidence of my birthday preparations mocked me. The positive pregnancy test still hidden in my drawer. The unworn lingerie I'd bought for after dinner. The card I'd written telling Mark he was going to be a father. I gathered it all into a garbage bag, every scrap of hope and happiness from that morning. In our bedroom, I stripped the sheets we'd last slept in together. His pillow still smelled. Like him, a scent that used to comfort me. Now it made me sick. I threw the sheets in the wash and scrubbed my skin raw in the shower, trying to wash away the hospital smell and the memory of blood between my legs. Mark came home late that night, smelling of antiseptic and exhaustion. He found me in the guest room. My belongings already moved out of our bedroom. Sarah, please. Let me explain. There's nothing to explain. I saw you make your choice. The whole world saw it. I kept my voice steady, refusing to cry anymore. I'm a doctor. I took an oath. Rachel needed immediate intervention. And I didn't? I was pregnant too, Mark, with your child. Or did that matter less because it wasn't hers? He flinched as if I'd struck him. That's not fair. I didn't know. Would it have changed anything if you had? The question hung between us, heavy with truth neither of us wanted to face. His silence was answer enough. I turned away, curling around my empty womb in the guest room bed. After a long moment, I heard him leave, closing the door softly behind him. In the darkness, I finally allowed myself to imagine a different choice, a different outcome. But choices, once made, can't be unmade, and some wounds never heal. Tomorrow, I would call a divorce lawyer. Tonight, I mourned everything I'd lost in that crash. My baby, my marriage, my trust in love. Outside my window, I could see the hospital where Mark was probably checking on Rachel one last time before bed. The lights blazed against the night sky, a beacon of hope for some, a monument to betrayal for me. The morning news played on the hospital room's TV, featuring Mark's interview about the accident. He stood tall in his white coat, cameras catching his perfect smile as he described saving Rachel and her unborn child. The reporter praised his quick thinking and steady hands, calling him a hero for keeping his composure despite I changed the channel, but every local station carried the same story. Memorial Hospital's finest surgeon, going above and beyond the call of duty. One reporter even tracked down Rachel's parents, who tearfully thanked Mark for saving their daughter and grandchild. Not one mention of the other victims, not one word about the wife he left bleeding. My phone buzzed constantly with messages from well-wishers who had seen the news. How wonderful that my husband was such a hero. How proud I must be. Each message twisted the knife deeper. I stopped responding after the first day, letting the notifications pile up unanswered. The hospital staff treated me differently now that I was just another patient rather than Dr. Chen's wife. The nurses who had gossiped about the romantic rescue grew quiet when they entered my room. They had finally connected the dots, realized what his choice meant. Their pity was almost worse than their previous excitement. Mark visited between surgeries, always in his scrubs, always smelling of hospital antiseptic. He brought coffee I wouldn't drink and explanations I wouldn't hear. Each time he looked more exhausted, the circles under his eyes darker. Good, I thought. Let him lose sleep. Let him feel a fraction of my pain. The media attention will die down soon, he promised. as if that would fix anything. I had to give the interviews. The hospital board requested it for publicity. Like, you had to save her? The words came out sharp enough to draw blood. Was that a request too? He sighed, running his hands through his hair. The gesture used to make my heart flutter. Now it just made me angry. Sarah, please. I made a medical decision in an emergency situation. Any doctor would have done the same. Would they have left their wife to bleed out? Would they have chosen their ex-girlfriend over their own child? You know I didn't know about the baby. His voice cracked. If I had known, you still would have chosen her. I met his eyes steadily. Be honest, Mark. For once in our marriage, be honest about Rachel. He looked away first. Another answer I didn't need to hear out loud. The day they discharged me, a reporter caught me in the parking lot. She thrust a microphone in my face, asking how it felt to be married to a hero. I walked past her without speaking, but she followed, persistent. Mrs. Chen, can you comment on your husband saving his former girlfriend? Were you aware of their history? How does it feel knowing he chose to help her first? Security finally intervened, but not before I saw the gleam in her eyes. She had her angle now. The hero surgeon's scorned wife. I could already see the headlines. At home, the silence was deafening. Mark spent most nights at the hospital, claiming emergency surgeries. I knew he was checking on Rachel. The nurses talked, and word got back to me. How he visited her room after his shifts, how he brought her favorite tea and magazines, how he lit up when discussing her recovery with the staff. I boxed up my things slowly, methodically. Each item held memories I couldn't bear to face. The coffee mug he bought me on our honeymoon, the sweater I was wearing when he proposed, the photo albums full of smiling lies. I left them all in the guest room, a museum of a marriage that died in a car crash. The divorce lawyer was direct and efficient. She had seen cases like mine before, she said. High-profile splits where public image complicated everything. She advised me to move quickly before the media narrative solidified around Mark's heroism. The hospital will try to protect him, she warned. They have too much invested in his reputation now. But we can use that pressure to our advantage in the settlement. I didn't care about money. I just wanted out. Wanted to stop seeing his face on the news. Stop hearing about his incredible save. Stop pretending I was proud of a choice that destroyed me. The first newspaper article questioning Mark's decision appeared 3 weeks after the accident. A medical ethicist raised concerns about doctors treating people they knew personally, especially in crisis situations. The piece mentioned me briefly, noting that the hero surgeon's own wife had been critically injured while he saved his former girlfriend. Mark came home that night furious. They're trying to twist it into something ugly. You know I had to make a split-second decision based on medical need, and it had nothing to do with the fact that it was Rachel? I kept my voice level. Nothing to do with the fact that she was pregnant with someone else's baby and you couldn't bear to lose her again? That's not fair. He paced the kitchen, agitated. I'm a doctor. I took an oath. You took vows too. The words hung between us. Till death do us part, remember? You just decided which death mattered more. The media attention intensified as more details emerged. Someone leaked that I had been pregnant, that I lost the baby. The narrative shifted. Hero surgeon became negligent husband. Medical miracle became ethical nightmare. Rachel gave an exclusive interview defending Mark's choice. She sat in her hospital bed, one hand resting on her growing belly, tears in her eyes as she described how he saved 2 lives that day. The camera caught her perfectly, making her look vulnerable and grateful. The perfect victim saved by the perfect hero. I threw up after watching it. Not morning sickness anymore, just pure disgust. She talked about Mark like she knew him, like she had any right to speak about our marriage. The interviewer asked if she felt guilty about coming between husband and wife. She cried prettier tears and said she would be forever grateful to us both for her child's life. The hospital placed Mark on administrative leave pending an ethics review. He blamed me, of course, said I should have supported his professional judgment instead of letting people question it. I laughed in his face, a harsh sound that surprised us both. Professional judgment? Is that what you call running to save the woman you never got over? Is that what you tell yourself at night when you visit her room instead of coming home? His face went white. Who told you about that? Everyone knows, Mark. The whole hospital sees you mooning over her like a lovesick teenager. They just didn't want to tell your wife. He left that night and didn't come back. The next day, my lawyer called to say he had agreed to an uncontested divorce. He would give me whatever I wanted just to end it quickly, just to be free to visit Rachel without sneaking around. I sat in our empty house, surrounded by the wreckage of our life together, and finally let myself feel everything. The loss of our baby, the betrayal of his choice, the public humiliation of watching my marriage dissolve in newspaper headlines. The rage burned cold cold and clean, washing away the last traces of love. The final insult came in the form of a birth announcement in the local paper. Rachel had delivered a healthy baby boy. The article mentioned that Dr. Mark Chen, the hero who saved them both, was present for the delivery. There was a photo of him holding the baby, looking at it with an expression he had never shown for our lost child. I packed the last of my things that day. Let him have the house, the memories, the life we built on lies. I had something better now. I had the truth and the strength to walk away with it. I found the letters while packing up our home office, a shoebox hidden behind medical textbooks, stuffed with envelopes and photos I had never seen. My hands trembled as I opened the first one, dated just months before our wedding. Rachel's handwriting flowed across the pages, intimate and familiar. She wrote about their time together in medical school, about regrets and what-ifs, about the life they might have had if she hadn't taken the fellowship in London. Each letter signed with "Love always are." The photos were worse. Mark and Rachel in their white coats, young and in love. Rachel in a sundress, laughing at something off camera. Both of them at graduation, his arm around her waist. And one that made my stomach turn, the timestamp showing it was taken just weeks before he proposed to me. They were at a medical conference, heads bent close together over coffee. I sat on the office floor, surrounded by evidence of a relationship that had never truly ended. All those times he had checked her social media, claiming innocent curiosity. All those medical conferences he had attended alone. How many of them had she been at too? My phone buzzed with a text from Mark, stopping by to pick up more clothes. We'll be quick. I gathered the letters and photos, laying them out on the kitchen counter. Then I waited, feeling strangely calm. When he walked in, his eyes went straight to the display. The color drained from his face. Where did you find those? Behind your Harrison's Internal Medicine, Volume 2. My voice sounded distant to my own ears. Were you reading them for research? He reached for the letters, but I moved them away. Sarah, those are private. Private like the conference in Boston last year? The one where you both presented papers? I held up the most recent photo I had found. Private like late-night coffee discussions about old times? Nothing happened. He ran his hands through his hair. A nervous gesture I now wondered if Rachel had loved too. We just talked. For 3 years, you just talked. While you were married to me, while we were trying for a baby, you just talked to the woman you never got over. It was innocent, professional courtesy. I picked up one of the letters, read aloud. I still dream about our last night together, the way you held me, the promises we made. Sometimes I wonder if we made the right choice, going our separate ways. The paper crumpled in my fist. Very professional. Those letters are old, from before us. I spread them out. A timeline of betrayal. This one is from 2 months after our wedding. This one from last Christmas. When exactly did you plan to mention you were still in contact? He slumped against the counter. Defeat written in every line of his body. I didn't want to hurt you. So you just lied instead? Kept her letters, met her secretly, then ran to save her while I lost our baby? The accident was different. I made a medical decision. You made the same decision you have been making since we met. Rachel first. Always. Rachel first. Fresh. Anger flared in his eyes. That is not fair. I married you, but you never stopped loving her. The truth felt like glass in my throat. Did you ever really love me at all? Of course I did. I do. He reached for me, but I stepped back. Sarah, please, let me explain. Explain what? How you kept her. Letters but never wrote me love notes? How you remembered her favorite tea but forgot my birthday last year? How you chose her life over our child? I did not know you were pregnant. Would it have mattered? Be honest, Mark. If you had known, would you have chosen differently? His silence answered for him. I gathered the letters and photos into a neat pile. Take them. Take your clothes, your books, your lies. Take everything except my dignity. That is the one thing you cannot have anymore. He stood frozen, staring at the evidence of his double life. What are you going to do? File for divorce. Move out. Start over without the shadow of your perfect first love hanging over me. The hospital board will not hear about this from me. I laughed bitterly. Your precious reputation is safe. The hero surgeon can keep his image. I just want out. He gathered the letters with shaking hands. I never meant for any of this to happen, but it did happen. You made it happen. One secret meeting, one hidden letter at a time. Can we not work through this? Try counseling? Like we tried after I found you looking at her social media? Or after you missed our anniversary to attend her department dinner? Each betrayal lined up like bullets. I am done trying. Done. Competing with a ghost that turned out to be very much alive. He left with his box of secrets, shoulders hunched under the weight of exposure. I watched him drive away, remembering all the times he had made similar exits. How many of those emergencies had really been messages from Rachel? How many nights had I slept alone while he relived old memories with her? The house letters felt different now, cleaner somehow, like lancing an infection. The truth hurt, but it was necessary for healing. I walked through each room, seeing it with new eyes. The living room where we had hosted dinner parties, Mark always lighting up when Rachel's name came up in medical conversations. The kitchen where he had practiced his conference presentations, papers spread out on the counter, phone buzzing with her feedback. In our bedroom, I opened his closet. Designer suits hung neatly, each one carrying memories of hospital galas and charity events. Had she been at all of them, watching from across the room while I played the dutiful wife? I pulled out every suit, every tie, every polished shoe, let him come back for them, let him face me again and again until there was nothing left to take. My wedding ring caught the light as I folded his clothes. Such a beautiful lie it had been, thinking I was his only love, his future, his choice. I slipped the ring off and placed it on top of his favorite suit, another thing he could add to his box of secrets. The sun set as I finished packing his immediate necessities. Tomorrow, I would call my lawyer, start the process of untangling our lives. Tonight, I would sleep in the guest room, away from the ghosts of touches that might have been remembering someone else. My phone lit up with a text from the hospital PR department, asking for a statement about Mark's ongoing ethics review. They wanted the supportive wife angle, no doubt. Wanted me to stand by my hero husband and validate his choice. I typed a simple response. No comment at this time. Let them spin their stories without me. Let them make him a hero, a savior, a paragon of medical ethics. I had my own story now, written in hidden letters and secret meetings, in a baby lost while its father saved another woman's child. The truth would come out eventually. Truth always does, but it would not come from me. I had kept his secrets long enough. The hospital charity gala loomed on my calendar, a black tie event I couldn't avoid without raising questions. As a board member's wife, my absence would be noticed, discussed, dissected. So I bought a new dress, sleek and black, armor for the battlefield ahead. Mark called the night before, his first contact since I discovered the letters. We should arrive together, keep up appearances until the divorce is final. Planning to save any pregnant women at the gala? The words tasted like poison. Sarah, please. The board is watching everything right now. We need to show a united front. I agreed. Not for him, but for myself. Let them see the perfect couple one last time. Let them remember who we pretended to be before everything shattered. The gala sparkled with wealth and privilege. Doctors and their spouses, board members and donors, all dressed in their finest. Mark played his part perfectly, hand resting on my lower back as he guided me through. Introductions. If anyone noticed how I stiffened at his touch, they didn't mention it. Rachel was there, of course, 6 months pregnant now, glowing in a maternal way that made my empty womb ache. She kept her distance, but I caught her watching us, watching him. Their eyes met across the room too many times for coincidence. Dr. Chen, the board chairman, cornered us by the bar. And the lovely Mrs. Chen. How are you recovering from the accident? Much better, thank you. My smile felt painted on. Such an extraordinary situation. Your husband's quick thinking saved 2 lives that day. The hospital is fortunate to have such dedicated physicians. Mark squeezed my waist in warning. Play along, the gesture said. Keep our secrets. I took a long sip of champagne. Yes, Mark has always been dedicated to saving lives, no matter the cost. The chairman's smile faltered at my tone. Well, we are all grateful for his service, if you will excuse me. As soon as he was gone, Mark pulled me into a quiet corner. What are you doing? Playing my part. Isn't that what you wanted? You are trying to cause problems. Like the problems you caused by keeping Rachel's letters? Or by abandoning your pregnant wife to save her? His face hardened. I made a medical decision. Keep telling yourself that. I pulled away from his grip. I have a meeting with my lawyer tomorrow. I will send the divorce papers to your office. Sarah, enjoy the rest of the gala, Mark. I am sure Rachel would love to reminisce about old times. I left him standing there, threading through the crowd toward the exit. Behind me, I heard whispers start, saw heads turn to watch my departure. Let them talk, let them wonder. The lawyer's office was cold and impersonal, much like my marriage had become. She reviewed the evidence I had gathered, including photos of the letters. This strengthens our position considerably. The hospital board will want to avoid any hint of scandal. I do not want money. I twisted my wedding ring, a nervous habit I needed to break. I just want out. Mrs. Chen, you deserve compensation for what you have endured. The loss of your child alone. I will not use my baby as a bargaining chip. The words came out sharper than intended. Draft the papers. Make them simple. I will take what is legally mine and nothing more. She made notes, professional mask hiding any judgment. And the letters? Keep copies in case we need leverage, but I will not expose them unless he forces my hand. The next day, I met my principal for coffee. Taking a leave of absence from teaching felt like admitting defeat, but I couldn't face my students while my life unraveled in public. Take all the time you need. She squeezed my hand. Your job will be here when you are ready. I drove home, past the accident site. Someone had placed flowers near the guardrail, probably for other victims. I wondered if Rachel ever visited, if she felt guilty about her miracle coming at the cost of my tragedy. Mark was waiting at the house when I arrived. The board called an emergency meeting. They are concerned about appearances, concerned that your perfect image might be tarnished, concerned that my wife is falling apart in public. The words hit like a slap. Your wife lost her baby while you saved your pregnant ex-girlfriend. How exactly should I be behaving? He ran his hands through his hair, frustration evident. I cannot change what happened, but you would not change it if you could. I met his eyes steadily. Would you, Sarah? Answer the question, Mark. If you could go back to that moment, knowing everything you know now, would you choose differently? His silence stretched between us, heavy with truth neither of us wanted to face. That is what I thought. I handed him a manila envelope. Preliminary divorce papers. Review them with your lawyer. You are really doing this? You did this. The day you chose her. Every time you read her letters. Every secret meeting and hidden conversation. I never meant to hurt you. Funny how the people who hurt us most always say that. He took the envelope, shoulders slumping. What will you tell people? The truth. That some choices cannot be unmade. That some betrayals cut too deep to heal. After he left, I sat in our empty house, surrounded by the wreckage of our marriage. Tomorrow, I would start looking for apartments, begin the process of building a new life. Tonight, I would mourn everything I had lost. He never let go. My phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. Can we talk? Please? I blocked her number without responding. Let her wonder. Let her live with her guilt, if she had any. I had nothing left to say to either of them. The divorce papers came back signed 3 days later. No arguments, no contests, no demands. Just his signature releasing me from the fiction we had lived. I signed my copy in the lawyer's office, hand steady as I wrote my maiden name, for the first time in years. Are you sure about the settlement? My lawyer asked one last time. We could push for more. I have everything I need. I handed her my wedding ring. Sell this and donate it to the hospital's children's ward. At least something good should come from all this. She nodded, understanding in her eyes. What will you do now? Heal. Start over. Learn to trust again. Outside, spring sunshine warmed my face. Around me, life continued unchanged. People hurried past, caught up in their own stories, their own choices. Somewhere in the city, Mark and Rachel were probably together, planning their future, while the past burned behind them. Let them have their fairy tale ending. I had something better. I had the truth and the strength to walk away with it. Some choices cannot be unmade, but they can be survived. Some betrayals cut deep, but they also set us free. I was packing the last of my kitchen items when the doorbell rang. Through the window, I saw Rachel standing on my porch, her pregnancy now visibly advanced. My first instinct was to ignore her, but something in her expression made me pause. She looked desperate, haunted even. Opening the door, I kept my voice neutral. What do you want? I need to talk to you, please. She cradled her belly protectively. There are things you should know. Against my better judgment, I let her in. She settled awkwardly at my kitchen counter, taking in the boxes and bare walls. You are moving out? Her voice wavered. Did you come here to discuss my living arrangements? She shook her head, tears gathering in her eyes. I came to thank you and to apologize. For what? Getting yourself saved by my husband? Having the baby I lost? For all of it. For everything. She pulled an envelope from her purse. I brought copies of all the letters. You deserve to know the whole truth. I stared at the envelope, nausea rising. I have seen enough of your letters. Not these. These are the ones I never sent. The ones that tell the real story. My hands trembled as I took the envelope. Inside were dozens of letters, all addressed to Mark, all dated over the past 3 years. Unlike the ones I had found, these were raw, angry, filled with accusations and regrets. He ended things when he met you, Rachel said quietly. Completely, finally ended them. I was the one who could not let go. I read through the letters, each one a window into her obsession. She had tracked his career, his marriage, his life, with me. The letters spoke of jealousy, of wanting what I had, of planning ways to run into him at conferences. Why are you showing me these? Because you need to know it was not his fault. The letters you found, the meetings at conferences, I engineered all of it. I kept pushing, kept creating situations where we would meet. He could have said no, could have told me. She wiped away tears. years. He did say no. Every time. He loved you, was faithful to you. I was the one who would not accept it. Until the accident, bitterness coated my words. Until he chose to save you first. He did not know I was pregnant when he reached me. Did not even recognize me at first through the blood and broken glass. He just saw someone who needed help immediately and left his wife to bleed out. The paramedics told me later, said you were stabilized, that your injuries looked worse than they were. Mark trusted their assessment. I laughed harshly. My injuries looked worse than they were? I lost my baby while he saved yours. Her face crumpled. I know. God, I know. When I found out, I wanted to die. Wanted to give back what my survival had cost you. Is that supposed to make me feel better? Your guilt cannot bring back my child. Nothing can. But you deserve to know the truth. Mark loves you. Has only ever loved you since the day he met you. I was the shadow hanging over your marriage. Not him. I stood, unable to bear her presence any longer. Why tell me this now? Because I am leaving, taking a position in London. My baby deserves a fresh start, away from all this pain I have caused. Does Mark know? She shook her head. I wanted you to know first, to understand that he did not betray you, not the way you think. He still chose to save you. He chose to save a critical patient. The fact that it was me was cruel coincidence. She struggled to her feet. What you do with this information is up to you. I just could not leave without telling you the truth. One hand supporting her pregnant belly, the same belly that had survived while mine emptied onto cold asphalt. Part of me wanted to hate her, to blame her for everything, but her letters painted a picture I could not ignore. Inside, I read through them again, saw the progression from desperate love to bitter acceptance, saw Mark's constant rejections, his loyalty to me despite her persistence. The last letter was dated the day before the accident. I give up, she had written. You love her in ways you never loved me. I see that now. I will stop trying to recreate what we had. She makes you happy in ways I never could. My phone buzzed with a text from Mark. Board meeting over. Ethics review cleared. Can we talk? I stared at his message, thinking of Rachel's revelations, of choices made in split seconds that changed lives forever, of love that stayed true even when tested. Yes, I typed back. We need to talk. He arrived within the hour, looking worn and wary. His eyes took in the boxes, the bare walls, the evidence of my imminent departure. Rachel came to see me, I said before he could speak. His face paled. What did she want? To show me the truth. All of it. I handed him her letters, the ones you never saw, the ones that show who really betrayed whom. He read in silence, shoulders tense. When he finished, he looked up with tears in his eyes. I should have told you about her persistence, should have been honest about the conferences, the meetings she arranged. Yes, you should have. I took a deep breath. But you were honest in the ways that mattered most. You loved me, stayed faithful to me. The accident was just that, an accident of timing and circumstance. I never wanted to hurt you, never wanted to lose our baby. I know that now. The words felt like glass in my throat, but knowing does not change what happened, does not bring back what we lost. Can we try again? Start over? I shook my head slowly. Some breaks cannot be mended, some losses cut too deep. Sarah, please. She is leaving for London, taking her baby and her guilt with her. I met his eyes steadily. Let her go this time. Really let her go. I let her go the day I met you. Then let me go too. Let us both heal from the choices we did not mean to make. He stood, shoulders slumped under the weight of understanding. At the door, he turned back one last time. I did love you, more than I ever thought possible. I know, that is what makes this necessary. Love should not hurt this much. After he left, I sat among my boxes and bare walls, holding Rachel's letters. Tomorrow, I would move into my new apartment, start building a life without the shadow of old loves and cruel coincidences. Tonight I would mourn what was lost, what could have been, what never would be again. My phone buzzed with a final text from Rachel. Thank you for listening, for understanding. I truly hope you find happiness. Again, I deleted her message without responding. Some chapters need to end without resolution, some stories without perfect closure. Mine would continue elsewhere, written in new choices, new chances, new beginnings. The setting sun painted my empty house in shades of gold. Outside, life continued unchanged. People hurried past, caught up in their own stories of love and loss. Somewhere in the city, Mark faced his own emptiness, his own regrets, and somewhere across the ocean, Rachel would build a new life, carrying the weight of what her survival had cost. Let them all go, I decided. The love, the pain, the might-have-beens. Some choices cannot be unmade, but they can be survived. Some betrayals cut deep, but they also set us free. The invitation arrived on thick cream paper. embossed with the hospital logo. Memorial Hospital's annual staff appreciation dinner. As a board member, Mark's attendance was mandatory. As his not-quite ex-wife, my presence would be noted, discussed, dissected. I had avoided all hospital functions since Rachel's visit. Since the truth about the letters came out, 3 months of careful distance, of rebuilding my life in a small apartment across town. But this event was different. This was where Mark would be officially honored for his actions during the accident. My lawyer advised against attending. It will only reopen old wounds, she warned. Let them have their ceremony without you. But something in me needed to be there, needed to see them celebrate the choice that had destroyed my marriage, my future, my trust in love itself. The night of the dinner I wore red, not the dress Mark had loved, but a new one. Sleek and powerful. Armor for the battlefield ahead. My hair swept up, makeup perfect. I looked like a woman in control. Only I knew how my hands trembled as I clasped my necklace. Mark was already at the podium when I slipped into the ballroom. His voice carried, clear and strong, as he accepted the hospital's commendation for extraordinary service. In moments of crisis, we must trust, he was saying, make decisions that will save the most lives possible. From my spot near the back, I watched him shine under the spotlight. The perfect hero, the dedicated physician. If anyone noticed how his eyes kept scanning the crowd, how they widened when he finally saw me, they didn't show it. The board chairman stepped up next, praising Mark's quick thinking and steady hands. Thanks to Dr. Chen's actions, both mother and child survived what could have been a tragic loss. My wine glass cracked in my grip. Red liquid stained my fingers like blood, like the blood that had soaked my dress while Mark saved someone else's child. Sarah, his voice behind me made me jump. I did not think you would come. I turned, keeping my face neutral. Celebrating your heroism? I would not miss it. Please do not do this. Not here. Do what? Remind everyone that your miracle save came at a price, that while you were saving her baby, yours was dying? His face paled. I never knew. How many times must I say it? Until it brings back our child. Until it erases the fact that you chose her again. Always her. That is not fair. You know the truth now. About Rachel. About the letters. The truth? I laughed bitterly. The truth is, you still chose to save her first. Still left your wife bleeding while you played hero. I made a medical decision. Keep telling yourself that. I set down my broken glass. Enjoy your celebration, Mark. You earned it. I turned to leave, but his hand caught my arm. Stay, please. We need to talk. We needed to talk 3 months ago. We needed to talk when you were secretly meeting her at conferences. We needed to talk when you left me alone in that wreck. Sarah, let go of me. My voice carried, heads turning our way. Let go of me like you let go of our future. He dropped his hand as if burned. Around us, conversations hushed, people pretending not to watch the drama unfold. Ladies and gentlemen, the chairman's voice cut through the tension. If you will all take your seats, dinner is about to be served. I moved toward the exit, but a familiar face blocked my path. Rachel's mother, elegant in black, her eyes cold. Mrs. Chen. Or is it Miss Walker now? Not yet. The divorce is not final. Such a shame. You and Mark seemed so perfect together. Her smile never reached her eyes. Of course, he and Rachel were perfect first. Something in me snapped. All the pain, all the loss, all the carefully maintained control shattered. Perfect? My voice rose. Was it perfect when she chased him for years after he married me? When she engineered meetings at conferences? When she wrote him love letters he never answered? How dare you? How dare I? How dare you stand there praising their perfect love while my baby died? While your daughter's survival came at the cost of my child? Silence fell across the ballroom. Even the waiters froze, plates suspended in mid-service. Sarah, Mark again, reaching for me. Please, no, let them hear it. Let them know the whole story. I faced the crowd of shocked faces. Your hero made a choice that day. He chose to save his pregnant ex-girlfriend while his wife lost their baby alone. He chose her, like he always chose her, even when he pretended not to. That is enough. The chairman stepped forward. Mrs. Chen, I think you should leave. Why? Because the truth spoils your perfect narrative? Because it reminds everyone that heroes sometimes destroy the people closest to them? Security will escort you out if necessary. I laughed, the sound harsh and broken. Do not bother. I am done here. Done watching you celebrate the worst day of my life. At the door, I turned back one last time. Mark stood frozen by the podium, his award clutched in white-knuckled hands. Rachel's mother dabbed at theatrical tears. The chairman whispered urgently to his fellow board members, let them whisper, let them judge. My truth had been buried under their accolades long enough. Outside, The night air cooled my burning cheeks. My phone buzzed with messages, probably my lawyer warning me about public scenes. I ignored them all, walking until my feet ached in their expensive shoes. I ended up at the accident site. Someone had planted flowers by the guardrail, bright blooms marking the spot where lives had changed forever, where choices made in split seconds had shattered futures and revealed truths too painful to face. A car pulled up behind me, headlights illuminating the flowers. Mark's footsteps crunched on broken glass still embedded in the asphalt. "You could have cost me my job tonight, like you cost me our baby? That is not fair. Life is not fair." I touched a flower petal, soft as hope. If it was, I would still be pregnant, still be your wife, still believe in love. We can still fix this. No, we cannot. I faced him finally. Some breaks cannot be mended. Some choices cannot be unmade. I loved you. Love you still. Will always love her more. The truth did not hurt as much now. Go home, Mark. Go be the hero they all think you are. What will you do? Live, heal, learn to trust again. I smiled, small, but real. Just not with you. He stood in the headlights, award still clutched in his hands, looking lost and small and nothing like a hero. Part of me wanted to comfort him, to take back the scene at the dinner, to pretend we could survive this, but that part was getting smaller. Every day, the truth had set me free, even if freedom felt like falling, even if healing meant hurting others to save myself. I walked away from the flowers, from Mark, from the last threads of a marriage built on half-truths and hidden hearts. Tomorrow would bring consequences, judgments, more battles to fight. Tonight, I would go home to my small apartment, to my new life, to the strength I had found in breaking. Some choices cannot be unmade, but they can be survived. Some hearts break clean, making room for something stronger to grow. I chose the charity gala for maximum impact. The venue sparkled with wealth and pretense, filled with the same people who had celebrated Mark's heroics while ignoring my loss. I arrived early, dressed in black silk that whispered power with every step. The divorce papers burned in my clutch, waiting for their moment. Mark spotted me immediately. His face paled as I approached the podium where he stood with the hospital. Bored. Tonight he would receive another award for his life-saving work. Tonight I would shatter his carefully constructed image. Sarah. He moved to intercept me. "This is not the place. Actually, it is exactly the place." I smiled at the gathering crowd. Where better to reveal truth than among those who helped? Hide it? The board chairman stepped forward, concern etched on his face. "Mrs. Chen, perhaps we should discuss this privately. Like you discussed Mark's ethics review privately? Like you buried the fact that he abandoned his pregnant wife to save his ex-girlfriend." Whispers rippled through the crowd. Mark grabbed my arm, but I pulled away. "Do not touch me. You lost that right when you chose her over me, over our baby. I did not know you were pregnant. Would it have mattered?" I opened my clutch, removing the papers. "Would you have chosen differently?" His silence was answer enough. Around us, phones appeared, recording the unfolding drama. Perfect. Let them capture every moment. "Ladies and gentlemen," my voice carried clear and strong. "Before you honor Dr. Chen again, you should know the full story. While he saved his pregnant ex-girlfriend, his own wife lost their child alone in the wreckage. While you celebrated his heroism, I grieved in silence." The chairman tried to cut me off, but I continued. "He kept letters from her throughout our marriage, met her secretly at conferences, then chose to save her when both our lives hung in balance. Security!" The chairman signaled urgently. "Remove Mrs. Chen. That will not be necessary." I turned to Mark, holding out the divorce papers. "I came to give you these. Sign them. Let me go like you let go of our future that day." His hands shook as he took the papers. "Sarah, please, not like this." "Like what? Publicly? Painfully? Like watching you receive awards for the choice that destroyed our marriage?" Cameras flashed as he signed, defeat written in every line of his body. The perfect hero, finally exposed. The papers are signed. His voice cracked. "What more do you want?" "Nothing. Not anymore." I faced the stunned crowd one last time. Your hero made a choice that day. Now he can live with the consequences. Security arrived too late. I was already walking away, head high, leaving chaos in my wake. Behind me, reporters shouted questions. Board members huddled in emergency discussion. Mark stood frozen, signed papers clutched in his hands. My lawyer called before I reached my car. That was quite a scene. The video is already going viral. Good. Let them see the truth. The hospital might sue for defamation. Let them try. Everything I said was true. They buried it once. They cannot bury it again. At home, I watched the footage spread across social media. Local news picked up the story. Medical ethics blogs debated the implications. Mark's perfect image cracked under the weight of reality. The hospital suspended him pending investigation. His colleagues distanced themselves, afraid of guilt by association. The same people who had celebrated his heroism now questioned questioned his judgment. Rachel called from London, frantic. What have you done? His career. His career matters more than my child, more than the truth. The truth is complicated. No, the truth is simple. He chose you. Again and again, he chose you. Now everyone knows the cost of those choices. I hung up, blocking her number. Let her live with her guilt across an ocean. Let her baby grow up knowing how it survived. Mark appeared at my door and small. They suspended my medical license, launched a full investigation into my decisions that day. Decisions have consequences. I could lose everything. I already lost everything. I met his eyes steadily. The day you chose her, the day our baby died while you played hero. You never meant a lot of things, but you meant that choice. You chose her knowing I was trapped too, knowing I needed you. The paramedics said you were stable, and you believed them because it was convenient, because it let you save her without guilt. He slumped against the doorframe. What do you want from me? Nothing. Not anymore. I started to close the door. Live with your choices, Mark, like I have had to live with them. The investigation lasted months. Every detail scrutinized, every decision questioned. The truth about Rachel's letters came out, the secret meetings, the hidden emotions, the years of deception. My lawyer kept me updated. They cannot prove medical misconduct, but his reputation is destroyed. No hospital will touch him now. And the ethics board? Formal reprimand. He can keep his license, but will be supervised for 2 years. Good. Let him feel watched. Let him remember consequences. The media attention gradually faded. New scandals replaced ours. But in medical circles, Mark's name became cautionary tale, the hero surgeon who chose wrong, who let personal feelings cloud professional judgment. I watched it all from distance, rebuilding my life piece by piece, teaching again, making new friends, learning to trust my own strength. The divorce finalized quietly. No contests, no battles over assets. Mark signed everything without argument, accepting his punishment like penance. Are you satisfied now? He asked at our final meeting. Now that you have destroyed everything? You destroyed everything the day you chose her. I just made sure everyone knew the truth. He looked older, tired, the perfect hero tarnished by reality. I did love you, not enough to choose me. I walked away from him one last time, leaving the wreckage of our life behind. Some choices cannot be unmade. Some truths must be told, no matter the cost. The city lights sparkled as I drove home, bright as the future stretching ahead. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new choices, new chances to be strong. Tonight, I would sleep, knowing the truth was finally free. Like me, the medical board. Investigation turned Mark's life inside out. Every decision, every meeting with Rachel, every letter she sent lay exposed under harsh fluorescent lights. I watched from a distance as his perfect image crumbled, as colleagues who had celebrated his heroism now questioned everything. My lawyer forwarded the investigation documents, page after page of testimony, evidence, analysis. The paramedics, who had declared me stable that day, were reprimanded for incomplete assessment. The hospital board members who buried the truth faced ethics inquiries of their own. Mark's family finally learned about the baby. His mother showed up at my apartment, unannounced, tears streaming down her face. Why did you not tell us? We would have been there for you. Like you were there when he chose Rachel, when he kept her letters, when he met her secretly at conferences? We did not know. She reached for me, but I stepped back. Sarah, please. You are still family. No, I stopped being family the day your son left me to bleed while he saved his first love. He was trying to save lives. He was trying to save her life. Mine did not matter enough to choose. She left looking older, shoulders bent under the weight of truth. Let her carry that burden. Let her wonder what kind of son she had raised. The investigation findings became public record. Medical journals published analyses of the case. Ethics boards used it in training sessions. How personal relationships could compromise professional judgment. How hero worship could blind institutions to deeper problems. Mark's colleagues turned against him one by one. The same surgeons who had praised his quick thinking now remembered other incidents. Times he had seemed distracted when Rachel was mentioned. Times he had volunteered for conferences where she would be present. His department chief called me, voice carefully professional. Mrs. Chen, we are reviewing all of Dr. Chen's cases from the past 3 years. Cases where personal relationships might have influenced his decisions. You mean cases where Rachel was involved? Among others. Your statement about their ongoing contact raised serious concerns. Now you are concerned? Not when he was receiving awards for abandoning his pregnant wife? Silence crackled over the line. We failed you. The institution failed you. We are trying to correct correct that. Correction comes too late for my baby. The investigation expanded beyond the accident. Every case where Mark and Rachel had interacted came under scrutiny. Every consultation they had exchanged. My lawyer brought more documents. They found a pattern. Times he prioritized her patients over others. Times he changed his schedule to consult on her cases. And the hospital ignored it all? They saw what they wanted to see. A dedicated surgeon going above and beyond. Now they see the truth. Rachel called from London again, desperate. They are investigating my cases too, questioning my patients, my reputation. Actions have consequences, even across oceans. I never meant for any of this to happen. You meant every letter you sent, every meeting you arranged, every time you pulled him back into your orbit. We never crossed lines. You crossed every line. You just did it slowly, carefully, until the boundaries blurred. I hung up on her tears, let her face her own investigation, let her explain to her colleagues why her cases were under review. Mark's final hearing lasted 3 days. I attended only the last session, sitting silently in the back as the board delivered their findings. Dr. Chen's actions during the accident, while legally defensible, showed significant impairment of judgment due to personal relationships. His ongoing contact with Dr. Rachel Chen, undisclosed to the hospital administration, creates serious concerns about professional boundaries. They suspended his privileges at Memorial, placed him on supervised practice for 2 years, required ethics training and regular psychological evaluation. The perfect hero surgeon reduced to watching others lead surgeries. The brilliant doctor, now supervised like a resident. He found me in the parking lot afterward. Are you happy now? Now that you have destroyed my career? You destroyed it yourself. Every secret meeting, every hidden letter, every choice that put her first. I saved lives. You saved her life, then built your reputation on my loss. His face crumpled. I never meant to lose our baby, but you meant to save her. You chose. Her knowing I was trapped too. Knowing I needed you. The paramedics. Stop. My voice cut through his excuses. Own your choice, Mark. You chose her that day like you had been choosing her all along. In small ways, in secret ways, in ways you told yourself did not matter. I loved you. Not enough to be honest. Not enough to let her go completely. Not enough to choose me when it mattered most. I left him standing there, surrounded by the wreckage of his career. Let him face the consequences. Let him feel the weight of truth. The media coverage finally faded. New scandals replaced ours. But in medical circles, our story became cautionary tale. How personal feelings could cloud professional judgment. How institutional hero worship could enable betrayal. My lawyer called with final updates. The hospital settled with 3 families who questioned Dr. Chen's care of their loved ones. Cases where Dr. Rachel Chen was involved. And the medical board? His supervision period stands 2 years minimum before he can practice independently again. Good. Let him feel watched. Let him remember consequences. I drove past Memorial Hospital one last time. The building stood tall and white against the sky, unchanged by the drama that had unfolded within its walls. Somewhere inside, Mark worked under supervision, his brilliant career tarnished by truth. Let him heal inside those walls, if he could. Let him rebuild his reputation one supervised surgery at a time. My healing lay elsewhere, in a future unbound by his choices. The city stretched before me, bright with possibility. Some choices cannot be unmade, but they can be survived. Some truths must be told, no matter the cost. I had paid that cost in blood and tears and lost futures. Now I would build something new from the wreckage, something stronger than secrets, than hidden hearts, than choices made in split seconds that changed lives forever. The truth had set me free. Let it do the same for him if he was brave enough to face it. I chose to tell his family about the miscarriage at Sunday dinner. The timing felt cruel, but truth often is. They had gathered to discuss Mark's supervision arrangements, to plan his professional rehabilitation. I arrived uninvited, carrying the weight of secrets too long buried. His mother saw me first. Sarah, what are you doing here? Telling the truth. Finally, I placed my medical records on the dining table about what your hero son really did that day. Mark stood, face pale. Sarah, please. Not here. Where then? When? After more awards? More celebrations of your great save? His father picked up the records, reading with growing horror. A pregnancy. You were pregnant? 8 weeks. My voice stayed steady through practiced control. Found out 3 days before the accident. Was going to tell him at birthday dinner. His sister gasped. The night of the crash. The night your brother chose to save his pregnant ex-girlfriend alone, while his own silence fell heavy as death. Mark slumped in his chair, head in his hands. His mother covered her mouth, tears spilling. "Why did you not tell us?" His father's voice cracked. "We would have." Would have what? Celebrated his heroism differently? Added asterisks to his awards? "We are your family." Were, past tense. Like my pregnancy, like my marriage, like my trust in your son. Mark finally looked up. "I did not know. But you knew I was trapped. Knew I needed help. Chose her anyway." His mother reached for me. "There must have been medical reasons." Ask him about the letters, about the secret meetings, about years of keeping his first love close while pretending to let her go. More silence, more tears, more truth splitting their perfect family portrait. His sister found her voice first. "The conferences, when you volunteered for every meeting where she would be presenting. The department dinners," his father added, "when you always seemed to know her schedule. The whole time." His mother whispered, "You were lying to all of us." Mark broke then. Really broke. Not the controlled crisis management he had shown during the investigation. He told them everything. The letters he kept, the meetings Rachel arranged, the ways he had tried to keep both worlds separate until they collided in twisted metal and shattered glass. I watched their faces change as understanding dawned, watched their image of their perfect son crack and crumble. The baby. His mother turned to me again. "Did you suffer? Was there pain?" Every second, every minute I lay there knowing what was happening, knowing he had chosen someone else's child over ours. She collapsed into tears. His father held her, looking years older. "The supervision." His sister spoke quietly. "The investigation. You deserve worse, Catherine." His mother protested weakly. "No, he does. He betrayed his wife, lost their baby, built his reputation on her pain. Let him face consequences." I left them to their broken family dinner. Let them digest truth with their cold food. Let them question every achievement, every award, every celebration of his heroism. My phone rang that night. Mark's father, voice heavy with grief. "We should have known, should have seen. You saw what he wanted you to see, what you wanted to believe. The grandchild we never knew, never got to love. The grandchild he sacrificed for someone else's baby." He wept then, this strong man who had raised a son to save lives while destroying his own family. The truth spread through their extended family. Aunts, uncles, cousins who had praised Mark's heroics now viewed it differently. Holiday gatherings grew tense, divided between those who defended him and those who condemned. His mother tried to mediate, invited me to Christmas dinner like broken families could be fixed with turkey and forced smiles. "You are still our daughter." "No, I am not. I am just the woman your son betrayed, the one whose baby died while he played hero." She sent gifts anyway. Baby clothes she had bought before knowing the truth. A family photo album with pages missing where Mark and Rachel had been together. I donated the clothes to a women's shelter, burned the album in my fireplace. Some gifts cannot be accepted. Some wounds cannot be bandaged with good intentions. Mark's breakdown came during a family birthday party. His nephew asked innocent questions about the accident, about being a hero. He shattered like glass, told the whole truth in front of children, too young to understand, about choosing wrong, about losing his baby, about years of lies finally catching up. They sedated him at the hospital where he once commanded operating rooms. His colleagues whispered behind privacy curtains. The great surgeon brought low by truth. His father called again. He needs help, professional help. He needs consequences, reality, the weight of his choices. He is still our son, and I was still his wife, carrying his child, until he chose differently. The family fractured further. Some blamed me for exposing the truth. Some blamed Mark for creating it. Some blamed Rachel for never truly letting go. Truth has a way of spreading, of finding cracks and widening them, of turning solid foundations to sand. I watched from a distance as they tried to rebuild, as they attempted family dinners with empty chairs and careful conversations, as they learned to love a son whose perfection had been illusion. Let them heal if they could. Let them find new ways to be family after truth stripped away pretense. My healing lay elsewhere, in a future unmarked by their name or their grief. The city lights beckoned, bright as possibility. Some families break under truth's weight. Some wounds heal only after bleeding clean. I had paid for truth in blood, and tears and lost futures. In a baby never born, a marriage never true, a family never really mine. Now I would build something new from honest pieces, then hidden hearts, then choices that destroyed while saving. The truth had set me free. Let it do the same for them if they were brave enough to face it. I founded the support group 6 months after the divorce. Survivors of medical trauma, we called ourselves. People whose lives had been changed by choices made in hospital corridors, in operating rooms, in accident scenes where split-second decisions rewrote futures. We met weekly in a community center downtown, away from the hospitals where some of us had lost trust, hope, family, away from the medical establishments that had failed us in various ways. My story became our foundation. The wife left bleeding, while her husband saved another. The baby lost while its father played hero. The truth buried under awards and accolades until it exploded. Others shared their stories too. The mother whose son died while doctors saved a politician first. The husband whose wife suffered complications because her doctor was distracted by personal issues. The children whose parent received compromised care due to hospital politics. We healed together, slowly, painfully, honestly. No pretense, no hero worship, no careful lies about medical necessity. Just truth and tears and gradual strengthening. Mark heard about the group, showed up one night looking haunted and thin. I met him at the door. "You cannot be here. I need to understand. To make amends. This is not about you. Not about your guilt or your need for redemption. Sarah, please. Go back to your supervised surgeries. Go back to your broken family. Go back to the life your choices created." He left, but sent a donation instead. A large check made out to our organization. I returned it unopened. The group grew. We added counselors, legal advisors, patient advocates, created resources for others facing similar situations, built something meaningful from collective pain. Rachel contacted us from London, wanted to share her side of the story, claimed it could help others understand the complexities of medical relationships. My response was brief. Your story is not welcome here. Your survival came at too high a price. The media discovered our work, wanted to do features, interviews, expose pieces. I declined them all. Our healing would not become entertainment. Then Mark tried one last time to reconcile. Came to my office at the foundation, looking older and humbled. "I want to help, to make something good come from what I did. Like the good that came from saving Rachel, from all those awards and celebrations. I was wrong about everything. About her, about that day, about what mattered most. Realizations come too late sometimes." He placed a folder on my desk. "I am leaving medicine, surrendering my license. Voluntarily. Playing martyr will not fix anything. No, but truth might. Let me tell my story to your group. Let me be the cautionary tale." I studied him, this broken man who had once been my future. Why now? Because I finally understand what I destroyed. Not just our baby, our marriage, but trust, faith in the system, belief in heroes. Your understanding cannot bring back what was lost. I know, but maybe it can prevent others from making my mistakes. I let him speak at one meeting. Let him tell the truth about choices made in crisis, about personal feelings corrupting professional judgment, about the cost of playing hero. The group sat silent through his confession. Some cried. Some glared. Some simply listened with the wisdom of survivors. Afterward, a young woman approached him. "My husband died because his doctor chose to save someone more important first." Mark faced her tears without flinching. "I am sorry. We are trained to save lives but not taught the true cost of our choices. Did you ever really love your wife?" "Yes, but not enough to choose right when it mattered most." I watched him walk away that night, shoulders bent under truth's weight. Let him carry that burden. Let it teach others what he had learned too. Late, the foundation grew stronger. We opened branches in other cities, created training programs for medical students about the human cost of their decisions. Mark kept his word, left medicine to teach medical ethics instead, used his story to show future doctors how personal feelings could blind them to larger truths. Rachel stayed in London, had another baby, built a new life, far from the wreckage she had helped create. Her choices had consequences too, even across oceans. I focused on our work, on turning personal pain into universal healing, on building something stronger than the lies that had destroyed my old life. The city changed around us, but truth remained constant. Some choices cannot be unmade. Some wounds heal only by helping others survive similar scars. My office overlooked the hospital where everything had changed, where a wife had bled while her husband saved someone else, where a baby had died while its father played hero. Their medical miracles, their celebrated saves, their careful decisions. We would keep truth, raw and powerful, and necessary. The future stretched ahead, bright with possibility. Truth had set us all free, in different ways, at different costs. Now we would build something new from honest pieces, something stronger than secrets, than hidden hearts, than choices that destroyed while saving. The foundation became our legacy, not the baby we lost, not the marriage we broke, not the trust we shattered, but truth, finally and fully told. The award ceremony fell exactly 1 year after the accident. I stood at the podium, facing a room full of of survivors, medical professionals, and advocates. My foundation, Survivors of Medical Trauma, had grown beyond anything I imagined. The plaque they presented me read, "For turning personal tragedy into universal healing. Simple words for a complex journey from betrayed wife to empowered advocate." In the audience, I saw familiar faces, members of our first support group, doctors who had learned from our program. Even Mark, sitting quietly in the back, learning still what his choices had cost. 1 year ago, I lay bleeding in a crashed car while my husband saved someone else. My voice carried clear and strong. I lost my baby that day, lost my marriage, lost trust in a system that celebrated his choice while ignoring its cost. The room stayed silent, remembering their own stories of loss and survival. Today, we have helped hundreds of survivors heal, created programs to teach medical students about the human impact of their decisions, built something meaningful from collective pain. In the back, Mark wiped tears from his eyes. Let him cry. Let him remember. We do not seek revenge. Do not demand perfect choices in imperfect moments. We simply ask for truth, for acknowledgement of the cost behind medical miracles, for recognition that every celebrated save may carry hidden loss. Rachel had sent congratulations from London. I had returned her letter unopened. Some distances cannot be bridged, even by success. The foundation had expanded to 12 cities. Our training program became mandatory at 3 medical schools. Hospital ethics boards sought our input on policy changes. Mark taught there sometimes, using his story to show future doctors how personal feelings could corrupt professional judgment. His students learned from his mistakes, his loss, his too late understanding. After the ceremony, he approached me carefully. "You have built something extraordinary from the wreckage you left behind. I know. Every day I teach, I remember what my choices cost." "Good. Let that memory guide others toward better decisions." He nodded, looking older and wiser than the hero surgeon who had once been my husband. "The new ethics guidelines, the ones requiring disclosure of personal relationships in medical decisions, that will save lives, and marriages, and trust, and futures. I am proud of you, Sarah. Pride comes too late sometimes." He left quietly, carrying his share of truth's weight. Let him teach others from his mistakes. Let his loss serve greater purpose. The foundation office overlooked the accident site. Someone still kept fresh flowers by the guardrail, a reminder of lives changed in split seconds, of choices that rewrote futures. My team worked tirelessly, turning survivors into advocates, creating resources for others facing similar trauma, building bridges between medical professionals and the lives they impacted. Rachel's mother attended one of our seminars, sat through presentations about the cost of privileged care, about hidden damages behind celebrated saves. I never understood before. She caught me afterward. "What's saving my daughter cost you? Understanding comes too late sometimes." She named her son Mark, a final twist of the knife, thought it would honor his choice that day. Names cannot rewrite history. The foundation grew stronger each day. More survivors sharing stories, more medical students learning from past mistakes, more lives touched by truth finally told. Mark continued teaching, using his experience to guide future doctors toward better choices. His students learned what textbooks could not teach about the human cost of medical decisions. Rachel stayed in London, building her career far from the wreckage she had helped create. Her choices had consequences too, even across oceans. I focused on our work, on turning personal pain into universal healing, on building something stronger than the lies that had destroyed my old life. The city changed around us, but truth remained constant. Some choices cannot be unmade. Some wounds heal only by helping others survive similar scars. My office overlooked the hospital where everything had changed, where a wife had bled while her husband saved someone else, where a baby had died while its father played hero. The future stretched ahead, bright with possibility. In different ways, truth at different costs. Now we would build something new from honest pieces, something stronger than secrets, than hidden hearts, than choices that destroyed while saving. The foundation became our legacy. Not the baby we lost, not the marriage we broke, not the trust we shattered, but truth, finally and fully told. A truth that would guide others toward better choices, toward healing, toward strength found in survival. I stood at my office window, watching the city lights flicker on. Somewhere out there, other lives were changing, other choices being made, other futures being written. Let them learn from our story. Let them choose better. Let them understand that every medical miracle may carry hidden cost. The foundation would continue growing, touching more lives, sharing more stories, building bridges between those who save and those who survive. The truth had set us all free. Now it would serve others, guide others, heal others, one story at a time, one choice at a time, one truth at a time, until understanding replaced heroes, until honesty replaced pretense, until healing replaced harm. The night deepened around the city, but our work would continue. Some choices cannot be unmade, but they can light the way for others. Some wounds never heal completely, but they can teach others to choose more wisely. Some truths hurt to tell, but they can save others from similar pain. The foundation would make sure of that. One story, one choice, one truth at a time. Forever forward, forever healing, forever free.